All right, so far we have seen shapes, uh, built-in shapes, custom shapes. Now we can talk about gradients. Okay, so for the gradient, we're gonna create another example. So let's go ahead and create another example. We'll call this example 5. All right. Okay, and let's talk about the gradients itself. So SwiftUI makes it like very easy actually to add gradients to your views or draw gradients. Okay, so there are like three basic types of gradients that there are. There's a linear, there's an angular, and a radial. Okay, now each of these gradients are created using a gradient object that takes an array of colors, the colors that you want to use to draw that gradient out. Okay, and values are actually provided to the gradient object to control how the gradient is gonna be rendered. Okay, let's take a look at with an example. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a private variable for colors, right? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna create a gradient object with colors. Okay, so this takes a color. All right, and we can use a few colors of our choice. So let's start with blue, orange, yellow, maybe. Let's add a green color. All right, and we'll have purple, and let's have pink. There we go. All right. Okay, so now we're gonna create our gradient. So I'm gonna use some of the basic shapes that have been provided. Yeah, so let's start with the basic shapes. Okay, and we're gonna fill them with let's say radial gradient. Right, now radial gradient itself takes a gradient object. It takes a center from where the gradient is going to start of the start radius for the gradient and end radius for the gradient. So let's give it all the values. So for the gradient value, we're going to use colors object that we created. We're going to say it starts from center, and the start radius is give it a 5. I'm going to take that one, and let's give it 200 for the end. Okay, and we are going to use this example 5 now for this. Okay, so let me create a markdown. Okay, or just say gradients. There we go. All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and resume. We are now looking at a circle with gradient applied to it, and as you can see, this is all it takes to create a gradient effect within SwiftUI. All right, now we used radial gradient. Right, now we can try out with another example. So I'm going to actually copy this, and I'm going to just change the example number. So I'm going to say this is example 6. All right, instead of filling it with radial gradient, we're going to fill it with angular gradient. So I'm going to change it to example 6 right now, and nothing is going to change because we have not changed our gradient style. So let's go ahead and change this and make it an angular gradient. Now notice how this is going to be different from the radial gradient. So we're going to supply colors, and the center is, let's keep it at center first. Okay, and I'm going to give it the preview a refresh, and there you go. So if you look, it almost looks like a cone that you're looking at from the top. Okay, now you can change this and play around with this value to say, like, where your center is gonna start, and depending upon like your where your center for the gradient is, it's basically gonna change the way gradient is rendered. All right, so I would recommend like playing around with these various different values, because it's gonna actually give you more understanding towards how gradients are drawn. Okay, there's one last one. I want to create that one with our custom shape. So I'm gonna say private var example 7. Okay, and this time let's use my custom shape example, and we're gonna fill that with a linear gradient. All right, linear gradient takes, once again, the gradient, all of them do, because they need colors to draw, and we're gonna say like a start point is gonna be leading and the end point is trailing for this example. And I am going to get the example 7 going. Inside our preview. Okay, so let's go ahead and refresh this, and there you go. There is our colorful wave, which has a gradient style. Okay, so that is how you can actually create your gradient. Now you can take this one step further, like we discussed, like you can have a a background or foreground, right? So let's add a background to this, and what we want to do is we want to create a maybe another linear gradient. All right, and this linear gradient is going to take some custom colors. So let's take color, maybe color of gray, or let's take black color, and we can say another black color. Actually, this blue looks awesome, so I'm gonna change it to blue. Okay, and we're gonna leave it bottom, so just change it to top maybe. Let's see what it looks like, and I'm gonna change this to bottom. Okay, so this is how it's gonna look like. So actually, let's do top leading. As you can see, I haven't I'm also playing with this, so I want to see like how what kind of effect it's gonna create. So awesome, this actually looks perfect. Okay, so as you can see, it's actually provided this nice effect. Now you can obviously tell the tell your shape to ignore safe area. All right, and basically, let's see, yeah, there we go. That's what I wanted. And the other thing that you can do, you can apply like other properties to this guy as well. For example, you can have a shadow, and I want to add a white shadow to this. So I'm going to say color dot white radius, yeah, why not, 10 1 1. So basically, this is how you can like further sort of like make your view look a little bit more slick. So as you can see, like how this view, this custom wave that we have created, we have actually added a glow around this shape. And if you notice, the shape is the shadow is almost following the custom shape that we have created. And as you can see how easy it was to basically create the entire experience just with few lines of code. So like I said, like with SwiftUI's built-in views, as long as you understand like how the shape protocol works, which is essentially like just implementing one single method of path, you can actually create any kind of shape you want. And there are like many practical usage of these shapes. So we're gonna look at one, like just in a few, but again, it's like sky is the limit for you to try on something with these custom shapes. Okay, so on to a practical use for these shapes.